Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Negative self-talk. How fun of a topic is this one? But it is super important because it happens to all of us, and it can be one thing that can keep you stuck when you're trying to really break free from food obsession or a lot just in general. This happens to many of us. So today I really wanted to talk about the 3 things you can seriously start today to end this negative self-talk for good. All right, and if you pop on and join, please say hello, let me know you're here, and we'll get going. Okay, negative self-talk. So I could seriously probably call myself an expert at this because oh my gosh, I did this for the longest time. And for me, this negative self-talk or this sort of negative feelings I had about myself really kept me stuck for a long time. And like I said, I had my eating disorder for about like 15 years, potentially a little bit longer, but these negative feelings that I had about myself and these negative self-talk that I would have, these conversations started when I was in early childhood, and they lasted for a long time. So for me to be able to stop this in a sense that I don't have this controlling me anymore and I don't let it consume me is huge. And you are not alone. Like, I want to talk about this because I actually see this come up a lot in the group that I have with the women in there and a lot with my clients. And like I said, this used to be a main thing for me that kept me stuck. And it was also something that was the last for me to get over in terms of the hurdle to get me to where I am today. And I found that these 3 things were key to really ending it so I could start to move on. All right. But they can be hard. So I wanted to go into these right away so we can get going at it. So the first one, this one can be the hardest to do, but it is actually out of the 3 like the main thing that actually can stop. Oh my gosh, it's so loud sometimes with the cars. I don't know if you heard that. I apologize. The first thing is to literally just stop. And when I say stop, I mean out loud, tell yourself to stop, right? So when these negative thoughts we have about ourselves come into play, a lot of times they can almost be second nature. We don't realize that they're coming in. It's because we've had them define us for so long that that's the initial things that come into our mind. And the moment you can say stop, it is key to changing your thoughts. And what I mean by stop is like, so say someone gives me a compliment, because this used to be a really, really huge challenge for me. When someone would be nice to me, when someone would say something nice to me, I almost never could say thank you. And if I actually said thank you, it would be followed by something that totally negated anything that they said. And I had to really practice this one because it didn't feel right to me. It felt like a lie. Someone was telling me something that well, why would they ever just be mean? Obviously they're just going to say nice things because people just are trying to be nice, but they really mean and feel this way. And it was all because of me. I had these conceptions about myself, and anything that would go against it positively seemed wrong. So the moment that I could say stop when these thoughts were coming into play was the moment that I could actually change it, right? So this could happen within a word into coming, thinking about something negative. It could be 2 words, it could be a sentence, it could be a couple sentences, it could be a paragraph, it could be a couple paragraphs, it could be a whole book that you're literally telling yourself that's negative. But the moment you can say stop to it, literally out loud, is the moment that you can change it, right? So for me, it was hard. Like, this one was a hard one. I had to practice it, and it didn't feel right to begin with because it was going against what I actually thought was true to myself. But it was so helpful, and it was a game changer for me. So like I said, the moment you can say stop, and this was hard, but you can do it, is the moment that you can change this. All right, so say this happened all the time when I would be looking at myself in the mirror, right? And I'd initially just go after everything negatively. I didn't like that I have this crease between my eyebrows. I didn't like all the freckles on my face. I didn't like the stretch marks that I have on my body. I didn't like the rolls that I see. I didn't like I didn't like anything, right? So the moment that I could say stop and catch myself in it, that was key. And sometimes you can literally go a huge paragraph or story into this negative self-talk, and then maybe a couple minutes later, like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? That is key. That's even a stopping moment right there. And over time, as you continue to do this, you will get closer and closer to when these negative thoughts pop into play. And when you can quickly stop that and change it, that's going to be a game changer. Now, do I sometimes still get into the mindset where I have sometimes these negative thoughts come into play? Yes, I'm human. I'm not perfect. I don't love myself all the time, but I'm okay with everything. And I show myself enough respect to be able to stop this because I know it's not true. So sometimes it would be a couple sentences or even sometimes a couple words into this negative self-talk that I say stop and I change it. But you have to be willing to change it. You have to be willing to let go of what is this negative self-talk, knowing that that positive aspect is the actual truth. You have to be willing to let go of it. And that can be the hardest part because you've kept with it for so long. Trust me, like, I will remember this to the day that I die. In middle school, this kid used to call me heifer. And it was when, like, at that time, it was so hurtful. It still is hurtful to this day because who seriously calls someone a freaking heifer? Like, that's just uncalled for. But it stuck with me. And when you have moments like this when you were a kid, that's when these sort of feed into it, right? And I've talked about this before where it could be planted from one thing. One little seed got planted in your mind about something negative, saying someone called you too fat, too ugly, too smart, not successful, you need to gain weight, you need to lose weight. Like, right, you have these negative things come into play from someone else and then you listen to it. And once that little seed's planted, unfortunately, you are the one that keeps that growing. It is hard to change it, right? And it usually feels wrong when someone says these things to you because it is wrong. It doesn't go with how you naturally feel about yourself. But this little unfortunate seed keeps growing and growing. And for me, that seed kept growing. And I will always remember getting called a freaking heifer in middle school because it hurt. And ironically, when anyone tells you things like this negatively to you, it is always about them. It literally is always about them. This kid, it was a dude, and he was this tiny little man. Like, I was bigger than him because he was quite tiny. And his own insecurities were being projected onto me. And that's all of this negativeness that you get from other people is them projecting their own insecurities onto you. And we unfortunately listen to them, right? So the moment you can say stop to any of this is the key thing in all of it. And like I said, once you keep practicing it, it will get easier and easier and easier to do. And you find that you won't go as far along into these negative words that you say about yourself because you are constantly going to be changing it and stopping that mindset and switching it to something more positive, right? Key step number 1. Number 2, once you can stop, then you need to fill that space with something actually positive about yourself, right? You don't want to say stop and then just leave it go because it leaves it open for that negative thoughts to come back into place. You have to fill it with something different. And this was a tough one for me because, like I told you, I didn't believe any of it. So what I did, and what I recommend if you're like, I don't even know what to say anything nice about myself, Google it, right? I literally had to Google nice things to say about yourself. Seriously, I had to do this because it didn't feel right to me. It was so hard for me to write nice things about me. I just couldn't do it off the top of my head. And if I did, it would take like hours and I would get like 2 words done. So I literally Googled this stuff, and that's okay to do to start because you will learn to actually believe it. So once you write these things down, write it down. Write this new definition about yourself, write this new description of yourself, and then read it out loud. Read it out loud to yourself multiple times a day. post that stuff up so you see it multiple times a day until you have this new habit of when you think about yourself, those actually are the first things that pop into your mind, right? Not the negativeness, because that is unnecessary, and that's something that was planted within you and you let it grow. And now you get this chance to plant something new that actually serves you and let that grow. And like I said, if this seems difficult for you, Google it. Google motivational quotes. Google motivational things that you actually love about, like Google this stuff. That's totally fine. And then once this becomes more of a habit, once you actually open yourself up and believe these things, you will immediately come up with the own things about yourself. It can be that simple, but it can be that hard at the same time. All right. And I had to post this stuff up all the time. I had to say this stuff out loud to me all the time because I had a long life of not allowing positive things to be flowing into me, right? I only allowed the negative things to come into play because that's what felt right to me at the time. So anything that was different, anything that challenged that, I literally put up my wall. I wouldn't let it in. And I had to be willing to open and get that wall out, let those boundaries down, be vulnerable, be willing to let go of some of these things that felt right because I told myself that they were true and they weren't. That's the key thing. And that's when you can start to really notice this negative self-talk starts to dwindle away. And you will be surprised at what actually comes into play instead. Because it surprised me. And it was really surprising when I would come into these instances where people would give me a compliment and I actually would just say thank you to it. I wouldn't try to say something different. I wouldn't try to negate it because it actually felt right. And I was like, oh, that thank you felt real. And it felt real because I believed it, not because the other person was telling it, because they felt that was real to them. I had to feel it real for myself. And that was the key thing for all of this, right? So, like I said, the first thing you have to do is be willing to say stop. It takes practice, but you can do it. The second thing, write this new definition down for yourself. So when you can actually say stop to these negative self-talk things, that new definition comes into play and you can use that instead. And the third one, oh my gosh, ask for help. Don't do this alone. Oh my gosh, I tried to do this alone for a long time and it wasn't working because guess who kept going into my head and messing it up? Me, right? So if you can actually ask for help with the group that, if you're in my group, you can do that there with your support at home, with your friends, family, anyone who is this main support system for you. Could just be me too, like things like that. You need to be willing to ask for help in this and ask for support, right? You don't have to be, like I'm not asking that you need to ask people for advice here, right? You just need to have someone to listen and to redirect you back to the life that you actually want and back on the path that you want to travel down, because it is so easy to get stuck in your head. It's so easy to get wound up in there and then lose sight of what matters most to you because you unfortunately are getting in the way of you. And that's so common in all of this, and I was literally the main thing blocking my own path for all this time. I thought it was other people. I thought it was life negative, like life happening to me. Like, why does shit keep happening to me that sucks? And it's because I let it suck. I let myself get defined by these moments instead of recreating them and choosing the good within it, right? That's where that key for asking for support and help in this is going to be a game changer for you. Use it, utilize it, right? Like, this is what we're here for. My struggles that I went through in life, I used them to create good from them because I used to just dwell on it. I used to sulk in it. I used to take pity on myself in it, and it didn't help me one bit. And the moment that I was able to turn those around, and the moment I was able to help others through this is what matters most to me. And I understand the negative self-talk. I understand what it's like to be stuck what it's like to feel like you want to just give up. You feel like there's no hope. You feel like you can't get anywhere, because I felt like that for a long time. And you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. If I see my clients do it, you can do it, right? Like, this stuff is difficult because it's emotional, because it forces you to become vulnerable. It forces you to let go of some limiting self-beliefs that you thought were really true. But it also forces you to open up and allow love in, allow compassion in, allow yourself to actually be deserving of everything that is worthwhile in life. And this is amazing stuff. And I know this negative self-talk is so hard to try and overcome because we believed it to be true. A lot of times this happens mainly because it's a coping mechanism. When things get tough in life, you always think that obviously you're the cause of it. Obviously, because of you, this happens. But that's not the case. When things sort of happen in life that are not fun, when they're sad, they're frustrating, disappointing, you have the ability to change how you react to them. That's how you can control all of this. You get to react the way that best suits you. And that way that best suits you is to try and really respect yourself in all of this. And that is really key. So these 3 ways you can seriously end this negative self-talk, you can start this today. Like, you don't have to wait. You don't have to be like, you know what, I'm going to start this tomorrow. Dude, start it today. That's how this stuff works. Don't wait, because the moment that you wait is the moment you're going to talk yourself out of it. So start this stuff today. So like I said, the first thing, say stop. Literally out loud. I don't care. I do this to myself too. And my husband will look at me weird, or I might get weird looks from people, but I don't care, because I'm worried about my life. I'm worried about being okay with me. Saying stop when the moment you realize the negative self-talk is coming into play. And like I said, that could be a word into it, 2 words into it, could be a full sentence, 2 sentences, a paragraph, a couple paragraphs, or a whole chapter of a book, right? But the moment you become aware of this, say stop. And then keep doing this, right? Because the moment you can keep doing it and become more aware of when this happens, it's going to be easier and easier and easier to stop it, because it's going to happen within a couple of words, right? The negative things that you say about yourself are the weakest literally when they're being thought of. That's when you can change them. And it's really hard to change them after the fact, right? Because you allowed them to go on for how long. So they're the weakest when they're first in your mind, and that's the easiest time to stop it, alrighty? And once you stop, second thing, you need to be able to fill it with the things that actually matter the most to you, and that's you just being okay with you. And like I said, if it's hard for you to think of some of these things that are actually a positive definition of yourself, Google it. That's what I did. I literally Googled this stuff because I didn't know how to actually be nice to myself or say nice things to myself. And over time, when I began to actually believe it, that's when it stuck. So write it down, post it, read it out loud to yourself multiple times a day, read it multiple times a day, see it multiple times a day. The more you see it, the more it's actually going to be apparent to you and form that new habit, all right? Because you probably talk negatively to yourself all the freaking time. So you need to be able to change that so you say nice things to yourself all the freaking time, right? So you can really switch it. And then that last key, and that last third step into this is asking for support in it. Do not feel like you need to do this alone. Do not feel like you are alone in this, because there's so many of us who do these things, and we need to stick together. We need to be able to inspire each other, to help each other, to empower each other through this, because this journey is way more than just ourselves. It's for everyone. And sharing is caring, right? Sharing your story is a way to care for others. It's a way to give them hope. It's a way to give them inspiration that they can do these things too. Alrighty? If any of this resonates with you, please let me know in the comments below or message me. I love to hear you guys. I love to hear how everyone's thinking about this kind of thing. So let me know. Alright? And if you feel like you want some extra help, if you want me to be that support system for you, I'm here for you. All right, message me or comment below. I can also share my calendar in the comments too if you feel that you wanted to be able to hop on a free call with me and see how we can really break you free from this negative self-talk. That's what I'm here for. Alrighty. So yeah, I wanted to really hop on because I said I've noticed this a lot in my group, and I notice it a lot with the clients, with my clients, with this negative self-talk seems to be like the end thing that is hard to let go of. But it's so important to do, and it is so doable at the same time. It just takes some time, because if you think about when these sort of thoughts came into play, right? For me, early childhood, these negative self-thoughts came in, and that was a routine thing for me. Like now I'm 31, like how long had these things been going on? It takes some time to change them and to revert back to what truly and who you are. But it can be done, and this is what I help my clients with, all right? Mindset is everything with this kind of a thing, and mindset is really going to keep these changes lifelong and long-lasting and not these short-term. Alrighty, so like I said, if you have comments, questions, concerns, anything, you just want to say hi, I'd love to hear from you, so please put it in the comments below. Alrighty, and I will put my calendar down there as well, so you can schedule that free call with me if you like. Alrighty, so I hope this helped you, and I hope that you start this today if you feel like you struggle with these negative self-talks that you have with you, but you can change it. Alrighty, so until then, enjoy the rest of your day. Alright?